All right. I don't.
You have to have firm consent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this one that Mia and Vinny drew up, and then what I wanted to do was to also show you the one that I went through with Jason, that I went through with Eleni, that Jason and them had drawn up, because I think it might be good to get two different options, if that's okay with Jason and Eleni. Okay, so here we go. Now, if you want to ask a question or whatever, please just speak, because I can't keep track of everybody's videos. So again, column B, this is the template. So you've got 3 tabs on your scenario sheet. You've got the template, which has all the various options. You've got the inputs, which is the things that a user would have to fill in. So names, you know, various things that you can see on the form. And a good way to find out what you would have to do for an input is actually just to look at your PDF and identify where there are text boxes. That will be a way that you can see that that's going to be an input. And then you've got the scenarios themselves, which are built out of the template. Okay, so that's the high level overview. Specifically in the scenario, in the template scenario, you're going to have the screen names in column B, or a kind of summary of the screen name if it's a very long screen name. So you can see here, these are all the screen names. And then in column C, you're going to have the various options that you could have on that page. So a simple one is user's name. You could either have first, middle, last suffix, or first and last. And now the reason that we don't do all the options here, because you know there's like different combinations that you could have, right? You could have first, middle, you could have first, last, first suffix. The reason we don't do that is because this is a basic question, so it's pretty robust, but also we want to test that all of these populate, and once you've tested that and you've seen that the PDF pulls in all 4 of those, there's no need to retest that every single time. So thereafter, you'll just need first and last.
Can I just clarify on that to split the 2 concepts, which is one, the basic questions, the ones that are asking that you know would prevent you from moving forward if you didn't put in your first name, etc. The behavior of the question itself is controlled in basic questions. That needs to be tested, but tested separately. What you are testing this form for is for whether the PDF fields are filled correctly once you've entered all that information. But afterwards, you know that the PDF fields have, you know, been triggered correctly, so you can simplify your test.
And this is the simplest. This is the simplest way, because you don't, you know, you want it to be first and last is the simplest path to go through. If you have first, middle, last suffix, that's 2 more blocks that somebody's going to have to fill in. So that's a relatively simple example, but here you've got a little bit more complex. And I think this is what Tyler was saying that he was a bit confused by, right, Tyler?
Yeah, and like, I guess I did want to ask a question just in the first box as well.
Yeah.
So I'm missing like the understanding of like why, so you have first, middle, last suffix. So like what makes you then put then first, last? Is that because you don't necessarily, is that like, I don't even know. Can you explain that again?
Michelle, can you quickly explain this? I quickly need to do something. Okay.
Sure, I can.
Sorry, I'll be 2 seconds.
Go ahead, go. Alarm in the background. So the field for the user's name, the question for the user's name has 4 fields: first, middle, last, suffix. One thing you need to check is that you as a code writer, you've written the code, right? You've written what goes in the PDF.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you've hooked up the PDF correctly to accept all that information. The first time you run through, you do all of them to make sure it's hooked up to your PDF. After that, you don't need to check that anymore because that particular test has been passed. You're just trying to get through the question as quickly as possible.
Okay.
The other reason to test the question is to make sure that the logic in your form is going on correctly and that you ask it correctly and it continues when it's supposed to continue and it stops when it's supposed to stop the person from continuing, right? But that is not the kind of, and then you test the question more extensively, but that is not the kind of test we need for user's name because that has not been written in your code, or rather, Mia, and in the code of the actual interview you're running, that's in basic questions. So you don't need to test this one that thoroughly, but for future ones, you're gonna have to make sure, for example, if I had written a custom version of this question, I would need to make sure that if I didn't put in a first name or if I didn't put in a last name, that it wouldn't continue, right?
Okay.
For either of those. So I would have to put in all of them except the first name, see that it doesn't continue. Put in all of them except the last name, see that it didn't continue. And then, and that kind of thing, right? But because this is a basic question, Igor, ow. Sorry, cat. Because this is a basic question, as long as it's not a customized question, one that is in your code. So a question that is written in your code, you have to test more thoroughly. A question that you pull from basic questions, that you trigger in basic questions, you just have to make sure that it is populating your PDF correctly, because you're the one that wrote that code, right?
Yep.
So you're just testing your code, not DocAssemble's code, not the basic questions code, etc.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. And now I will go on and explain everything else. I don't know what Maeve was going to do, so she promised it was only going to be 2 minutes.
Can I just ask a question? Actually, yes. I know it's kind of further down, but what does the overflow PDF, and when someone says C input, what does that mean? Is that just to the extra variables or the extra options rather than?
So some fields, for example, when you're giving the description of a defendant, right? You only have, the form only allows you a certain amount of space to put that description in. So you have to deal with a situation where the user is going to put in too much information, right? And you can deal with that multiple ways. One way is to make an addendum. I don't remember which one's which. And the other way is to make a character limit in your field so that the user knows when they've gone over the character limit. And that way you make sure that overflow in your PDF is dealt with, and that all the information that the user will know, either the user will know that all the information they're typing in will show up on the field, or that you make sure that all the information they type in shows up on the field, right? With an addendum, whatever. So that's overflow PDF. So that's stress testing that you have made sure that those situations are handled for the fields that they need to be handled in, right? The other one you said was C inputs. So that shows the input. Maybe we'll go into that with the input tabs, and that's a more complex situation. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
What did I miss?
I just explained about overflow, but you can do it too if you want. I don't know.
No, I think that's fine. So Tyler, sorry that I had to jump up in the middle of your question. Did you figure out what was going on here, or do you still need some clarity?
Yeah, no, Michelle did a good job cleaning it up.
Okay.
I think you were gonna move on to that third column, but if you could elaborate on that as well, that'd be helpful.
Okay, perfect. So here we've got various options that you could have, right? So there's 3 different questions, or one's a third. The third option is a show if. So if I
actually have another thing to bring up. I'm sorry. In other party type and name, first last suffix is one option, but after that time you just have to do first and last. So I'm not sure how that gets represented in here, but
just add it in.
Yeah.
Okay, good catch. Okay, so here you've got a page which you have 2 questions, and if you select yes to either of them, a third question appears. So what they've done here is they want to test the different permutations of that flow. So you select no and no to both the first 2 questions, and then the third question doesn't appear. You select you select yes and then no, and then the third question doesn't appear. Yes, no, third question does appear. No, yes, third question doesn't appear. So they just want to test the different variations of that. So if you've got anything like that, you're going to want to test the different combinations. If it's a, how do we say, if it's just you have a yes, no, or a checkbox, you're just going to want to say yes and no. So you'll have it like this. One line will be yes and one line will be no.
Okay, that's how I was doing it, so that's good. I was confused because we don't really have any like that, and so that's why
Right. This is a pretty complicated. I want to see if I can show you here. Can you see all of my screens?
I think one of the points we need to say is that this is not an exact representation, and this also doesn't represent all the branching path. It doesn't like accurately represent all the branching paths, like, you know, you like have a linear thing for each of them. It just is a hint to us human people on how to write the test. So when we're writing the test, we use that as a guideline. We don't, you know, it's not something.
So to test this, for example, what you would do is you would just say, like, the question would be like class action, and then you'd have one row saying yes and one row saying no, and you test that. That's fine. That's nothing. But that one is that's a more confusing one. So I think what I might do for this is to actually create some easy examples. I'm wondering, so here, right? Here they've got a kind of version of that. You've got yes, no, and then you've got no input, because it's actually like there's a field. So that's an option of how you would do that. So once you have this template, which I know that Jason and Eleni and James have, you then move on to the inputs. And as I said, a good way to see the inputs is to look at your PDF itself and see where there's going to be text fields. So one of the things I noticed is that Eleni, James, and Jason, they actually hadn't accounted for a lot of the inputs. As I said, the best way to do it is to look at your PDF, identify every single time that somebody's going to write something in, and then put an example over here. And this is going to get copied and pasted into your test case template. So that's why this is important, because you see it's not really getting used here at all, but the way we've decided the process is that it's easier to think about it while you're doing the scenarios. So then you've got the actual scenarios themselves. And I think what we might do is we might just pull up Jason, James, and Eleni's one, and I'll show you how I would do this on theirs. You're doing complaint for contempt, is that correct?
Yeah.
We'll say hi to Dirty's mom. She's so cute. Okay, so this is now another example of a test case scenario template, which is being put together by Jason, James, and Eleni. You can see here they've got a good example of the yes, no. Tyler, I think this is maybe what you were asking about, how to do this. So this is actually a can't continue. So if you say no, you can't continue with the interview. Here, there's no, it doesn't actually
does it actually end the interview though? Because that is another option, is that it takes you to an exit screen.
I don't think it actually ends the interview. I think Eleni, when Eleni was showing me through it, it wasn't. What happens, guys, if you press no?
It says
Are you talking about
like this.
Go ahead, Jason.
That like this interview isn't for you, and then gives you an option to exit or restart the interview.
So it is an exit screen. So ends interview is more accurate than can't continue.
Right.
So it's not like I didn't enter a value that I should have entered. It's an actual ending screen.
Right. Okay. So that's perfect. Okay. So this is a good example of a scenario template. I'm not sure if you guys have built up the inputs though. Okay. Yeah. So the thing to do now for Jason, James, and Eleni is to go through their form, identify every single place is going to be an input. Say, for example, there's, I think, an amount. And this is what Eleni and I were doing last night. So you'd say yes, and you'd see a thing to put in an amount of money. So it'd be yes, see inputs. Also here, instead of dates of denied parenting time, it would be yes, see inputs. And then on your input screen, you would then have, Michelle, what do you think about, we don't actually always have to have this when it's just one line. We don't have to have something in this block.
I'm not sure what, I have not seen those cells before. Are they just supposed to be informational?
Yeah, it's just a group. It's so, for example, when you have a multiple lines, you have this other party or user. So it groups all that.
It might just be good to have it stay consistent, but.
Okay. So you would put
I
the
mean,
kind of heading, you put the heading here.
Yeah, I mean, you could say payments, you know, as opposed to due and unpaid payments.
And then you would, it's only one line, and we just put 100 because it's going to be $100. And so that will be Jason, Eleni, and James's next step. What we did yesterday with Eleni was that we actually kind of pretended we were doing one. So this is an example of how it would look. We copied and pasted the template, which is what you do. You basically just copy this whole template a couple of times, and then you go through it and you delete which row you don't want to test. So you want to test that, you want to take, your scenario is going to be yes, yes, yes. So you just go here, 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 and you delete those rows. You just go right click and delete those rows. And then you've already gotten your scenario. So in the attempt, you'll see that that's what we did. But yes, 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 civil, the person's testing all the parts of the names, same thing for the other party, another option. And you basically just go through like that. And once you've done that enough time that you think you've caught every kind of possible use case that a user would have, and, you know, had a couple of do not, you know, this interview isn't for you and can't continues, then you're ready to move on to the test case template. Another aspect of this that we haven't covered is the example PDFs. So, where is it? Over here. Basically what we do is we have a fourth column, D, where you will link PDFs that'll be the example. So it'll be the output PDF that you will generate at the end of the interview based on that scenario.
Just one clarification, this isn't the output PDF that you will generate by going through the interview. You're going to make it by filling in the PDF yourself in the way that you believe it should look. The tester will generate the PDF through the interview and compare it. Does that make sense? Sorry, maybe I misunderstood what you said, Maeve.
Yeah, so basically what happens is you have the PDF that you guys created for your interview. Instead of running through the interview and creating the outputs, you are going to open it up in Adobe Reader. It doesn't have to be the fancy Acrobat one. And you're going to input, you're going to fill it out as if you were completing this scenario. The tip is to not sign it at the end. So don't complete the digital signature field, because that means that you won't be able to edit the PDF later. And then once you have all of these PDFs, you can save them in your test case template folder. So here, this is the complaint for contempt. I'm going to just make a folder here. What do we call them? Output PDFs or example PDFs? What are they called? Scenario PDFs. I don't know if that's right or not, but anyway. Basically, you just want. Sorry.
I love it.
So you just want to have them all in one place, and once you've got them all in there, then you can link them to them on your sheet. And the way that you link to them is, okay, well, the shortcut is Control-K. I don't know what the long cut is. Do you know? Right click.
I mean, when you click on it, there's a little, you don't have to right click. There's just a little edit. If you click on it, there's a little pencil thing.
But if you click on a normal cell, because they will just be normal cells for people.
Oh, I see.
So people will be adding their links to these cells. So if you want to add a link to a cell, you can just go, for example, so you put the text in there, you right click, insert link. On computer, it's on PC, it's Control K. I think Mac, it might be Command K.
Probably.
And then you just paste the link to your PDF that you've saved in your folder. Ta-da! Okay.
Ta-da.
The next step is the test case templates. But I think that what I would like to do now is to, we've gone over Jason, James, and Eleni's one. I'm wondering if there's any questions from you guys specifically about yours.
No, I think this was helpful. Yeah, sort of clarified it up on how we should be working on the template.
Okay, so then what I'm thinking is perhaps could you guys break off and maybe just do a couple on your own, between you and Eleni. I know that James is unfortunately not with us at the moment, and then drop in the testing channel and just say, can somebody please review this and just make sure we're on the right track, because I would hate for you guys to do 20 and then there was like something wrong in the first one. So just do, I'd say maybe 4 to each. And I think the first thing though is to just get those inputs right. So that's, I'm looking at the wrong one now, sorry. This one. And then of course, once you've created the scenarios, the next step would be to create the PDFs. Okay, so you guys can jump off. The next team that I wanted to speak to specifically was Sinead and Finola, because I know it's late for you guys. So if we can just get
I just
guys.
have one question. Do you know the way, sorry to butt in, but do you know the way for the template you'd have yes, no, and then it's like, is it does not answer? Do you put that in yourself when you know that like that is an option, as it isn't a mandatory question, or like it should kind of be, let's say, interview cannot continue, or how is that kind of, I saw it in one of the testing kind of templates.
Let me just have a look at this and then I'll show you. You can see if we're getting I think I know what you're talking about, but I think it might be best just to clarify.
Yeah, so like for user's address, you have like, this isn't a yes, no, but like you have does not appear. When do you include that? Because obviously someone would have to fill out an address or.
Right.
So there's the whole question not appearing, and then there's the whole screen not appearing, or then there's like an individual question not appearing. And sorry, you know what, Maeve, you keep going. I don't know what I'm doing. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is does not appear is for that question, that screen does not appear. But I don't think that they've done this. I don't think doesn't appear is the right wording. I think it should have been no input.
Okay.
No. If you select that you want to impound your address, it doesn't show up at all. The whole screen doesn't appear.
Right. So that would be linked to. So that's not a good example. This is specific for impounding information. See here, this is a good one. So what I think you're talking about is like no inputs. Is that correct, Sinead? When you're like, you want to test that you can't proceed without putting something in?
I think so. It was just, there's different things that when I was trying to do our own one, I was just kind of like, I don't know where these kind of fit in.
Why don't we have a look at Joe Guy's one and see, perhaps, because I think you guys also had a question about the different, how to structure it on the sheets.
Just that one of our questions has like 6 questions, and then there's like, let's say you can answer it, then you can like leave it unanswered, but then one aspect is mandatory and one aspect, so we weren't sure how to even, I don't know, kind of go about it.
Which question is this?
Like the list of motions and events. So like you can click, there's 6 events, you can click either one or all, but then when you click into an event, it's mandatory to fill out what it is, but it's not mandatory to give the date. So it was just kind of like, if we're testing and we built this question ourselves, we didn't use basic questions. So when I was like, think of how many times we had to test it, I was like, geez, that's going to be an awful, like there must be something that I can do in Excel that will like cut that down, but I couldn't find anything.
So what we have is when you have like multiple events, is actually what we do is we just test like no events, 1 event, and then 6 events, like the max events. So you don't, and the reason we do that is because I think that if you get all 6, then the balance are going to be accounted for.
The others would work. Okay, yeah.
Is that correct, Michelle? I'm just thinking of the children when we test no children, 1 child, and 3 children.
It depends. Well, so what we'd actually, I'm switching for children. I'm switching to no children, 1 child, and like 8 children. Because what you're testing is what happens if no, like if you're thinking of like what should change the behavior of the interview. It should change if there are no events, right? That should have a whole different behavior. It should change if there's 1 event, that should have another behavior. If you have multiple behaviors, maybe that will overflow the PDF, so that might be something you want to test, right? But you don't want to test in between there, because there's nothing special that happens in between there, right? If you have 3 or if you have 4, nothing's really going to behave differently.
There are 2 different questions regarding children, though. There's the question about like if you have your own children, and then there's the question like, are you responsible for other children?
Yep, and each of those counts as a group of children, and you'd be testing 1.
I'm just telling everybody, so like you might want to play with that a little.
Like for each question. Yeah, I think children is a confusing example to do the specifics of, because it doesn't, each scenario that could change the behavior of your interview needs to be tested individually. Or it needs to be tested with those different, anyway.
I think you've kind of cleared it up for me. I don't know about Finola, but
I'm just gonna jump ahead and ask a question that I think I might encounter.
Yep.
We haven't actually gone through the individual scenarios yet. That's kind of the next thing we're going to do. But you were saying with the PDF, you link the PDF beside every, say, case scenario, and you can edit the PDF on Adobe. We're working with DocX, so I'm just wondering, when do we edit it on Word?
It's the same with typing, Mike.
I think it lets you edit it right in the web page.
So if we link
it did for me.
So if we link our Word document beside, like where the PDF is supposed to be, it will still let us edit it.
It's still, sorry, it does need to be in a PDF format, because when it comes to testing it, you want to compare 2 PDFs, and the interview outputs a PDF. So I think for you guys right now, sorry,
could they generate one and save it in, with those inputs as a PDF and then generate another, or does it not?
Well, I think Finola DocX uses the PDF format as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But does it keep fillable fields? Does it keep fillable fields?
Yeah, I don't think so. And it moves, it adjusts based on how much text is in there, right? It's not a static thing. So guys, I think for now, what you can do is that aspect of it is only going to come up after you guys have even created the test case template. So for now, I would just do the scenario template, the inputs, the actual scenarios themselves. Then by the time you guys get there, or by the time you guys get to the test case template, we'll have an answer for you guys. And for Tyler and Mike.
Okay.
And I know I'm jumping ahead there, so thank you.
No, it's fine.
And I'm not sure you have to test overflow for DocX if it expands. If every field can expand it, then you will not have to test overflow.
So I'm looking at Sinead and Finola, right? So I think we can safely delete this one. So you've got C input and no input. That's perfect. And you can't continue if you don't select the court. Is that correct? Is that a required field?
Yeah, it's required.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here, docket number is not required.
No.
So you got C input, no input. Perfect. This one is what we were talking about earlier. I would delete this row simply because you've covered all 4 over there, and then you go 2. And I think I like that you guys have included this as well. We were talking about this in our meeting earlier. And I think that it is you can test that once, you can test this once, and then for the balance, you can just have this one in your scenarios. Okay, so I think you guys are on the right track. I think it's just a case of okay, getting in there, tidying it up, and then doing the inputs.
So yeah, we kind of kept yours, but then we did these ourselves today. We just, the list of issues and events, we weren't sure how to even go about that really.
That's
so
right. I see what you guys are mentioning. So this is where it was getting, where you guys were getting confused, right?
Yeah, they were the
Yeah.
6 kind of check boxes. So we weren't sure whether we had to, test every single one, because there's kind of fields within the check boxes that are
Right.
mandatory. So I think what you said was just test all 6 and then none.
Well, yeah, you just do for one event, for example, you can just do like, event, like you do you just represent one event here, right?
Okay.
And then any of the events, if you do however many events, then you can, would they list 6 events and then just say no input for 5 of them or whatever, or for all of them type of thing?
No, I think you would list all 6 events, and you'd have the various, so you'd have like event 1, maybe maybe colon, whatever what the inputs are, right? So I understand what you're saying, that it's a checkbox first, and then if you click the checkbox, then you
This
get
is
like,
the inputs.
yeah,
This is
right.
the input.
But there are inputs connected to the checkboxes, aren't there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you fill in like a date and you fill
More
in
details.
more details, but then one of them is mandatory and one of them isn't, so every time you'd have to kind of like do a few.
I'm trying to understand. Oh, maybe I've missed what inputs are. Those aren't what's populated, what's automatically populated, because otherwise I'm not sure what a colon is. Or
A colon, like this.
you said with a colon, like that's a semicolon.
So
but
event 1. And then
colon what?
So like date maybe, yeah, and then
I don't know what other inputs there are.
I guess I don't know
Details
how
and
the
date.
programming for the inputs work. This is with the program templates, right?
So, sorry, what?
The templates that are programmed, right? Is this the information that's supposed to be populated? You know what?
Yeah.
Just ignore me.
We do use these inputs.
Okay, you're more familiar with it. That is totally cool. I can't see the headings of the columns, so that's fine. I believe you.
Can I ask you guys to break off? I mean, it's late. You guys can do it tomorrow morning, but
okay.
Tomorrow morning maybe just try and first of all bring the template up to scratch, and then try with this list of events. Maybe try 3, and then you can just drop me a line, and I will come on and give my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, sounds good. We can do that.
I'll touch you guys tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Okay, does anybody else have any piece of work that they would like me to look at? No. So what I'm thinking is that, does everybody have a better idea of how you're supposed to go about creating these scenarios? Tyler's nodding. Jody's nodding. Anvita, Aubrey, Jack, and Mike, and Nick?
Yeah, I think this was a good crash course on how to do these things. I think our form we're not ready yet because we still have so much SME review. And
right, of course.
But I think this will be a great resource, like even just this recording too, going back to it and running it through again. But it was a really great first step.
Okay, perfect. And as I said, instead of doing a whole thing, rather do a little bit, come in and check in and make sure you're on the right track. And you're always welcome to drop that in the testing channel, and one of us will come in and jump in and help you. Nick?
So I have a question. I'm glad Jack stepped in, because I was kind of like, what's going on? So the templates, I looked in the testing channel and I saw like the templates. Will this all be available? Where are we getting these templates?
Okay, so
I don't
I'll
know.
just show you. Don't worry. I feel like we're all We're all there, right? Okay. So we're in testers. I'll pin this.
Are all these resources in the testing like instructions document? Because then we could just have a link to the testing instructions document.
Yeah.
Right. Like that can be our main link.
That could be our main link, but that's not up to date. So I'm going to pin this.
Okay.
So here you guys have your folders. You guys' folder is not there yet. What was your form?
Ours was a motion to dismiss an application for a child requiring assistance.
Okay, perfect. So I'll add that
So
in there.
motion to dismiss CRA.
And then once you basically, I'll link it to that in that message, and then you click on it, and then you'll see that there'll be a blank scenarios for you to complete.
Okay.
And then the
Good.
precedent and stuff is all linked in there as well in that pinned message. And the precedent is the one that Mia and Vinny created. But what I'm thinking of doing is maybe having like an example folder where we actually make copies of everyone's different scenarios once they're finished with them, so that you can go and have a look at various different people's work. Because you know, if we just have it as Mia and Vinny's, then there's going to be some like things that we can't account for.
We can have a file shortcut or an alias, depending on what you're calling it.
An alias, that's what I want to know.
Folder.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to copy.
That's helpful to see different examples too, to kind of be able to like cross-reference like differences in one form to another.
Yeah.
And then to bring that okay.
I'm all about precedent, literally. It's just it's very helpful to see how other people have done it. So that's the one thing. Okay, so that's you guys are good. Then we've got Anvita, who's going to be taking this on with Kate. How are you feeling, Anvita?
I think it definitely makes more sense. But I feel like even though we've talked about it now, I feel like until I actually try to fill in the template with the scenarios, I won't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you're sitting in front of it trying to do it yourself, right?
Because I was looking at the example form also, and I feel like because every form is different, so I think it's just going to take like a try to figure it out.
And of course, you're working kind of semi by yourself. So what I could try and do is I can also just sit in with you and Kate and try and help you along as well, because this process is new to her now as well. It's evolved since she was involved in it.
Okay.
So if you schedule a call with her and just try and get an idea of what the scenarios are going to be for that form.
Oh, she already wrote out like a whole document for it. So I've just been referencing that document.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, if you get stuck, I've got another call now. I've got another call now, but perhaps later or tomorrow morning, we can jump on and kind of go over what you've done.
Yeah, I can like actually translate some of the stuff in the document and put it in the template that you sent me. And then when I have like enough down, I can just send it to you.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. Okay, so then we've got Aubrey, who's representing Matt as well. Do you understand what's going on here?
Somewhat. I think I need to watch both of these videos again. Specifically this one, I've had to rejoin like 6 times. I don't know if it's been bothering. No, but I'm like sitting on top of my router, but it's still
Okay, so why don't we? I'll drop this in the channel once it's
thank you.
Process. Yeah. I don't know what the word is.
If people run out of things to do, I might have something for them to do. I'll discuss it with the other PMs, but just putting it out there.
I'll reach out to you. David just gave Matt and I a bunch of homework.
Oh, great. That sounds amazing.
I think that we might be able to get it done somewhat in the next like 12 hours. So,
okay.
Where can I find the Excel sheet? I'm sorry, I have looked for it, but I'm just not sure I'm looking in the right place.
What was your form?
Marriage Without Delay.
Let me see if I've made that folder yet for you guys. No, okay, I haven't. So I need to make 2 folders. I need to make who else did I need to make? It's
the CR.
Yeah.
Motion to dismiss an application.
Got it. Okay, I'll make those 2 folders right now, and I'll link those in the channel, and then I'll drop this in once it's finished processing so you guys can watch it. I'm trying to get David to upload it as well so that it'll just be linked on YouTube. Right. Anybody have any questions?
Can I just ask for a favor related to YouTube? But the last, what is it? Teaching Tuesday is not this past one, the one before that Michelle did is not on YouTube, and I was looking for that one. Could you just ask David if he has it?
We actually, it's on our side that we're just trying to redact some stuff quickly, and hopefully it'll be published. Michelle, do you want to cut it up a little bit?
Well, we can publish it now, and then I can cut it up, and we can re-upload something, I think.
Okay,
so unless that's a problem.
You're redacting stuff. It's not like I don't need it now. I was just.
I can also link you the non-redacted version. Just message me, and I'll get it to you. Just don't download it or